We are not able to hear. We are not able to hear.
Start.
Sure.
Purnata, can we start? Am I audible?
Kumar, I think Purnata is having some issues with her audio.
Proceed to start with the event. Am I audible?
You're audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Audible, sir?
Yeah, Purnata, audible. Please take over. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, one and all present over here. On behalf of Legal Cell and Law and Society Alliance, powered by Laws Co, our media partner, welcome each and every person present over here. I'm Advocate Purnata Rayani, completed my MCom and LLB from Mumbai University and moderator of today's event. Talking bit about Law and Society Alliance. Law and Society Alliance is the co-host of today's event. It is a nationalistic organization conduct webinars on issue of national security, education, society, medical issues and much more. Its recent webinar on revisiting One China policy has been the talk of town and also a shift in the way China was seen earlier. I would also like to welcome our organizers, Mr. H. Kumar Vaidyanathan and Mr. Bipindra NC. Mr. H. Kumar Vaidyanathan is an advocate in Bombay High Court and Secretary General of Law and Society Alliance and also a co-founder of Legal Cell. Mr. NC Bipindra is an advocate practicing in Supreme Court and Delhi High Court. He is the editor of Defense Capital, chairman of Law and Society Alliance, and also a co-founder of Legal Cell. Moving towards our first speaker, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce Ms. Shilpa Bhatia. Ms. Shilpa Bhatia is an advocate at Bombay High Court and has a vast clientele. Ms. Bhatia has been practicing over 20 years now and has a vast experience in matters relating to HR, labor and industrial litigation, sexual harassment investigation, and advisory. She was a member of Sexual Harassment Committee for the Labor and Industrial Tribunal Mumbai from 2012 to 2014. Also, she has been a member of Sexual Harassment Committee for DBS Bank, Bharti AXA Life Insurance, and Lupin Limited. Under the POSH Act, she is presently a member of the Sexual Harassment Committee for companies like IPG Advertising and Business Service LLP, USV Limited, Genbuck Pharmaceutical Limited, Aegon Life Insurance Company Limited, 9XM Media, Lowe Lintus and Partners, McCann World Group, Allied Blenders and Distillers Private Limited, Currencies Direct, Tiva, Lifestyles International, Messina Hospital, Bergwin Car Rental Private Limited, and the Leelas Mumbai. Ms. Bhatia has represented Maharashtra as a best candidate and All India third rank at the Republic Day Parade, New Delhi, 1988. She is a representative of the Duke of Edinburgh with silver and bronze medals. She is also the president of Rotaract Club of D'Honor while winning the Best President Award in 1993 and 1994. As interesting as the profile sound, we would like to hear a few words from the lady herself on prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. Also, I would like to inform all our participants that you may share your question, concerns or queries in the meeting chat box, and if time prevails, we will try to have Q&A at the end of the session. Now I request everyone to please be on mute as I hand over this forum to Ms. Shilpa Bhatia. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Purnata, for your kind introduction. And thank you to Law and Society and the Legal Cell for giving me this opportunity to do my bit to contribute through my profession to the society. And I'm very happy to be sharing today the legal perspective of the recent and the very, very important legislation, as you can see on your screen, sexual harassment of women at workplace. So now this is a topic of which is of immense importance in today's environment, in today's time, not only from the work point of view, work culture point of view, but also from the view of society at large. In fact, the two are interlinked and depend upon each other for their growth. What we are as an individual, the inner culture, our principles, our thinking, this shapes our attitude, and this plays the most important role of in respect to this particular law, because it is not really a law, it is a social legislation also. And today the outlook of the younger generation is very open, especially with the expansion of technology, the media, internet, so many sources of information. So life is moving at a very, very fast pace. And the way we used to look at things 10, 20 years back, now they have changed so much from there. And we need to change with the changing times. So a lot of the issues which were earlier, maybe suppressed or maybe less prevalent, today they are so much highlighted and we cannot ignore them. So I believe today we are in a transitional phase of our society, in a renaissance state where, our society is trying to strike a balance between the old and the new. And we as lawyers, especially the younger lot, I feel it is our responsibility to bring about a unification of the social environment with the law and maintain this balance. Now, you all would have heard about, Me Too movement and so many other hashtag movements. So all these movements are creating a lot of awareness. However, what happens is it also brings about a lot of questions in our mind, which, we want to understand. So with this background, let us now see and understand the recent and a very important legislation. And though it's a very, very vast area, today we are only seeing, I'm taking you through what the law says, what is laid down, so that you should be aware of it. So as you know, the name itself is sexual harassment of women at workplace, and we are seeing the legal perspective. I'll have to just move this presentation. Just give me a moment. Once it starts, I will. Are you able to see the screen properly?
Yes, we are able to see it. So,
yeah, thank you. So the purpose of this act is to prevent, protect sexual harassment of women at workplace. So this is a threefold thing. It is prohibition, prevention and redressal. So from this itself, you can make out that the law wants, it's not just that when an act is committed, what is to be done. First, it should be our endeavor to see that such acts do not take place. So we are aware, we are conscious, and then we understand things so that such actions do not take place. However, if something happens, then there is also a forum laid down on how to redress the issue. Now, as you all know, fundamental rights are granted in the Constitution of India, like the right to equality, the right to life, to live with dignity, have a safe working environment, and also human rights protection against sexual harassment. That is the right to work with dignity. Now, these lay the basis of our rights and how they are linked with sexual harassment. As we go further, we will see that. Now, sexual harassment has its basis, this law has its basis in the Supreme Court judgment of 1997 of Vishaka versus the state of Rajasthan. I'm sure Most of you would have heard the Vishakha guidelines, the Vishakha case. I'm not going into the details of the case. What happened was, through the Vishakha judgment, for the first time, the sexual harassment was defined by the Supreme Court. There were guidelines laid down making it mandatory for every employer to have a mechanism of redressal. And the concept of gender equality was brought forth. And for the first time, Supreme Court acknowledged that sexual harassment at workplace as a human rights violation. So this was a landmark judgment. And from then on, after the Vishakha guidelines, in fact, the process of making a legislation started. And in 2013, December, we had this Sexual Harassment Act, which is more prominently known as the POSH Act, Prevention of Sexual Harassment. So now what does the law say? What is sexual harassment? One or more of these unwelcome acts or behavior where physical contact or advances, demand for sexual favor, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, or any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So you see, the most important part of this definition is unwelcome behavior. So if the behavior is unwelcome, if it is consensual, then it cannot be called a sexual harassment. Or if you are fine with it, it is not a sexual harassment. If it is unwelcome, it falls under sexual harassment. There are also additional circumstances which the law lays down, that implied or explicit promise for a preferential treatment in the employment or a detrimental treatment, where the future is threatened, a future employment status is threatened. Anything which interferes with the work or creating an intimidating or offensive or a hostile work environment, or gives a humiliating treatment to the lady, affects her health or safety, causes sexual harassment. So the most important point is, who is an aggrieved woman who can complain? So in relation to a workplace, a woman of any age, whether employed or not, who alleges to have been subject to sexual harassment. So here again, you will see that any lady can complain of sexual harassment provided it is in relation to work. So what place? Or any place visited by the employee arising out of or during the course of employment. So that means, if, for example, we have one other place, some of us are selected for the seminar, that place becomes our workplace. Or we have gone for an official picnic. That place, because we have gone for the office work, it becomes a workplace. There could be so many more examples. So it includes transportation provided by the employer for undertaking such a journey. So for example, some companies have their company buses, or they have their company carpools. So all these also form a workplace. If any incident takes place in this environment, then it could be sexual harassment. Even unorganized sector is included, and a dwelling place or a house. So even you see that housing societies are also covered by the Sexual Harassment Act. So the next thing it leads to is, who is an employee. So any person who is employed at a workplace on a temporary or permanent basis, ad hoc or daily wage basis, through a contractor or agency, whether principal employer is aware or not, working voluntarily or otherwise, for any remuneration or not. It also includes co-worker, contract worker, probationer, trainee, apprentice. So you see, it is a very, very vast definition. Any and everybody is included under the definition of an employee. So if a lady, for example, if I go to another office and there I have a meeting there, and some of their housekeeping staff, or maybe somebody who is not really related to my work, I allege sexual harassment, the company will have to deal with it if that person falls under any one of these categories, because he becomes an employee of the organization. The lady may not be an employee, okay, but to complain against the man in a particular organization, he needs to be employed. So now, who is responsible for the management, supervision, and control of a workplace? It includes a person or a board or committee who is responsible for formulation and administration of the policies for organization. The local complaints committee takes over the investigation if the employer is the accused party. So this is the important part. Why do you need to know who's an employer? Because if you have a complaint against the employer himself, then who will the IC report to or who will take decision? So in that case, the local complaint committee takes over. Also, in cases where there are less than 10 employees and there is no IC in the organization, the local complaints committee can take over and matter can be sorted out there. Now, the most important thing is what behaviors create an hostile environment. So it could be discussing sexual activities, maybe telling off-color jokes, unnecessary touching, commenting on physical attributes, displaying sexually suggestive pictures, using demeaning or inappropriate terms, using indecent gestures, sabotaging the victim's work, engaging in hostile physical conduct, granting job favors to those who participate in such activity, consensual sexual activity, using crude and offensive language. So these are the inclusive but may not be an exhaustive list. This is an examples. So if any of these things you see, come under, if you see this happening with you, or you feel that someone is under this, you need to bring it to the notice of the authorities. Sexually hostile environment we see is gender specific. So gender specific means this law, POSH law, deals with such an environment, hostile environment against the women. It subjectively abuses the person and persons. So it is not, it is a very vast area. So there are no, this is sexual harassment and this is not sexual harassment. So every act has to be seen under a certain, like we see with the definition, and I'll take you further how we will determine whether it is sexual harassment or not. So first of all, my being a lady is causing that behavior from the person. It is a subjective behavior and it's not the intention, but the perception of the act. So the man may not say, this was not my intention. However, but when I look at it, I don't like it. So then it could be sexual harassment, because the important part here is I have to bring it to the notice of the other person that, listen, I don't like this behavior, or I have to take steps for it. And so that the other person sometimes may not be really aware, he should be made aware of that. Now, conduct constituting sexual harassment is not always sexual in nature. Because what is this? See, sexual means we have this, we have a certain set of thinking. Sexual means this. However, even a remark like, तुम लड़की लोग किसी काम की नहीं हो, तुम रोटी बनाना जानती हो, सिर्फ घर पे बैठो. So this is just a simple utterance. However, this is causing me, this could fall under sexual harassment if the person is doing this again and again and causing such remarks to me. So this is not really sexual, but it falls under the definition of sexual harassment, and it may be complained against. Now, factors which determine such behavior. Now, factors whether the behavior is pervasive enough to create a hostile environment. Is it really that kind? The frequency of the discriminatory conduct, the severity of the conduct. So, for example, I gave you this example of the person saying, remarking about the ladies. Maybe 2 times, 4 times, 10 times it might happen. So you complain about it. But there might be a certain conduct which the person, like physical touching or causing, indecent language. This behavior, you don't wait for 2, 4, 10 times. You immediately correct the person, and if it is not happening, then you make a complaint. Now, whether the conduct was physically threatening or humiliating, or was it mere, offensive utterance in the spur of the moment, I'm angry and I use those words. So it's not necessary because the person is a lady, I'm using those words. It could be just because the environment, we are completing projects, we are having deadlines, and I'm just making certain remarks. So maybe it is that way. So whether the conduct was unreasonably interfered with the work. So this is important. So the conduct which I am making a complaint against, is it interfering with my work unreasonably? The effect of the employee's psychological well-being, and whether the harasser was a superior in the organization. Now, most of the times we have seen that it turns out that the harasser is a superior because he has that power to use his position or to misuse his position. So many times that also could be a reason, one of the factors. Now, internal committee, till now what we saw was the prohibition, the preventive part of the law, so that such issues do not take place. So we are aware. However, if once a complaint is made, then the law lays down certain redressal procedure. There is an internal committee which is mandatory for every employer to constitute. So in every administrative unit, office, division of the employer, or every establishment, there needs to be an IC. At least 4 members of the company have to be a part of the IC, out of which at least 50% have to be women. And the IC will hold office for a period not exceeding 3 years. This is basically for rotation purposes. Now, the internal committee, like we said, half the members must be women. And what is the constitution? The presiding woman officer who is nominated from amongst the employees, preferably senior. So the presiding officer has to be a lady. It has to be a woman. At least 2 members from amongst the employees who are matured, who have an experience, they can deal with certain situations. They can be made members of the committee. And 1 external person is compulsory, who could be from an NGO or an organization committed to the cause of women, or it may include person who is familiar with labor, civil, criminal law. They could be the external members. Now, role of IC, this is a very important, see, IC is a very important body because it can receive and take cognizance of the complaints. It can conduct inquiries into sexual harassment, place the findings before the employer, recommend punishment. It ensures the safety of the complainant and the witnesses during the inquiry. And whether the harasser is intimidating, maybe they sometimes have to take care of the safety of the respondent as well, and to seek medical, police, and legal intervention if and when necessary, if such a situation demands them. The powers of the IC for making an inquiry under this law, the law has given them power that is equivalent to a civil court under the Civil Procedure Code. So they can enforce the attendance of any person. They can ask for documents to be produced, and you cannot refuse it. If you refuse, they have the power under the Civil Code to take appropriate action. And the inquiry has to be completed within a period of 90 days. Now, once the complaint is received, there is a process of conciliation. So this is done before the actual inquiry, and has to be done at the request of the aggrieved woman. No monetary settlement can be made as a basis of conciliation. Now, this is a very, very important aspect, because we have seen that after the Vishaka guidelines also came, before this law was formulated, so many times, what used to happen was, because the complaints are against a high profile person or the name of the company is being dragged in. So company did not want that, or the person may not want that. So they were interested in monetary settlement. And even the other way around, sometimes the women file false cases to extract money, and they used to settle the matter for huge amounts. We have seen all kinds of cases. So to get rid of such possibilities, there is no monetary settlement which is allowed under the Act. And once a settlement has been arrived at, the IC records the settlement and sends the copy to the employer. Copy is also given to the parties, and then no further inquiry needs to be conducted. Now, during the inquiry, the lady may make a written request for her transfer or the transfer of the respondent. She could ask for a leave up to period of 3 months, where such leave is in addition to the leave which is normally granted. So this is over and above the leave which is granted. And the respondent not to provide a report of her work or write her appraisal. Suppose she is reporting to the person, he is the accused, then the appraisal should be taken by someone else and not the same person. Now, this request will be evaluated by the IC, who will make a recommendation to the employer, which is then to be implemented. So very important thing is, just because somebody has filed a sexual harassment complaint doesn't give the right to that lady to ask for leave for 3 months. Sir, I have filed complaint. Now I am not coming to office for 3 months. It's not that way. Or a transfer is not compulsory. What is important is the IC will see whether it is really required, whether the facts and circumstances of that particular case require, then definitely you will move ahead. So when conciliation does not take place, then both parties have to be heard, and the inquiry has to be conducted as per the principles of natural justice. That means both parties have to be heard. You cannot take one-sided information and pass any recommendation. The report and findings have to be submitted to the employer within 10 days, and copies have to be given to the parties. Now, what is the procedure of the inquiry? The aggrieved woman has to make a complaint in writing, submitting 6 copies, and the complaint has to be made within a period of 3 months of the incident, and it could be relaxed to a further 3 months depending upon it. Yes, it could not be filed earlier. Then documents, names of witnesses, everything has to be submitted. Then the internal committee will forward this to the respondent within approximately 7 working days. The respondent has to be given time to file his reply, maybe around 10 days to give his reply. And then principles of natural justice have to be followed. Both parties have to be heard. They have to be given an opportunity to examine and cross-examine the parties. No legal practitioner is allowed in the proceedings. In the proceedings, minimum 3 members of the committee have to be present. And the committee has the power to pass ex parte order if the respondent is absent for 3 consecutive days, or maybe even if the lady doesn't come for 3 consecutive dates, even despite giving opportunities and not a substantial ground for remaining absent, then the inquiry can be closed as well. So you see, it is not like domestic inquiry where you have a DR and MR, etc. Here the parties represent themselves. Now, disciplinary action can be taken against the respondent as per the service rules if it is proved that he has been held guilty. Action could include written apology, warning, reprimand, withholding of pay or promotion, or terminating also in certain cases. No action will be taken if the IC states that the allegation against the respondent has not been proved. So action against the POSH Act cannot be taken. The employer has to act upon the recommendation within 60 days of the receipt of the recommendations, and every offense here is non-cognizable. There is also a provision for appeal. When one party is aggrieved by the findings or the recommendations are not implemented, the party may appeal to a court or tribunal, which is prescribed under the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, and this has to be done within a period of 90 days. Now, confidentiality. One of the most important aspects of this particular law is confidentiality. The contents of the complainant and the inquiry are confidential and nobody can disclose it. Not the employer, not the complainant, not the respondent, or anybody. They cannot be published or communicated to anybody. Information regarding this has to be kept only within the IC, only when the inquiry is being conducted. And any person who is interested with the role of this procedure or who does not follow this can be fined up to rupees 5,000 and can also be punished under the service rule. So just because I am the complainant, I have filed the complaint doesn't mean I have the liberty to go and tell it around, or even the respondent, they cannot do. Same goes with the IC members. They have to keep it within themselves and not take it outside the IC meetings. Now, false complaint or evidence. If the complaint is false or the evidence is false or malicious, the IC can recommend taking action against the witnesses or the complainant. But malicious intent has to be established before any action is taken. And law also says that the inability to substantiate the complaint or provide sufficient proof does not attract this provision. Now, the IC has a responsibility to submit the annual reports to the employer and the district officer. District officer varies from each state government. In Maharashtra, the district officer is the deputy collector. So employer has to include information like, number of complaints, sexual harassment complaints received, or how many were disposed of, is there any pending complaint, and are awareness programs held, what is the nature of action taken. So again, you see, when the government is asking you to file reports, they are not asking you details. Only the number is asked, so that to ensure that you are taking the corrective steps. So here also the identity is not disclosed and confidentiality is maintained. Now, what is the role of the employer? Role of the employer is to see that such cases do not come. There is a safe working environment. That is the work environment culture is good for everyone to work. So it is a preventive thing. So they have to first, primary duty is safe working environment. Then they have to display at the conspicuous places of the workplace information regarding sexual harassment, conducting regular workshops. They should provide the name of the internal committee members, and if a complaint is to be filed, whom can the person approach to, and provide assistance if the victim needs the assistance for filing of the complaint or any such thing, then the employer should help the lady to do this. You will see that today, like I said, today with internet and emails and WhatsApp, what the companies do is they have intra mail facility. So where they have an email ID for their own IC also sometimes, where the lady can file her complaint. Now, there is a penalty if the employer fails to meet with the requirements of the Act as it has been prescribed. He will be liable to a fine of rupees 50,000. And repeated offences may increase the fine and sometimes even lead to cancellation of the license. This is a very, very important provision. And today, even under companies law, it is made compulsory to have a sexual harassment policy. Your auditors will first come and ask you whether you have a policy, whether you have a committee. So from wherever possible, government is taking steps so that, there are no loopholes and proper coercive steps are taken. Now, this POSH law, most men will be wondering, it protects only women, as you know. It is not gender neutral or transgender. So a man who is victim of sexual harassment of workplace cannot file his complaint under POSH. However, many organizations have opted to make their POSH policy gender neutral in order to ensure equal representation of workers. So though they may not be able to file complaint under POSH, however, their company will have a similar procedure laid down where they can complain and inquiry can be conducted. Similarly, you can go to the civil or the criminal court depending upon what your allegations are, and even men can file such complaints. Now, most of you may be aware with the Standing Orders Act. Under the Standing Orders, which is a uniform code of conduct of employment, it is compulsory to include sexual harassment as a misconduct today. And sexual harassment in the Act also says is not limited to women. It can be men also. In fact, with changing times, maybe transgender as well. So also after the Nirbhaya case, today I do not have really much time to discuss so many case laws with you. But you all will be aware after the Nirbhaya case, the Criminal Act has also there have been a lot of amendments, and these are the key offenses like outraging modesty of women, sexual harassment, assault, voyeurism, stalking, insulting. All these are now included as the key offenses under the IPC. So as responsible citizens, it is our duty that we all make a collective effort to work towards achieving this common goal, to have a safe working place. And that is the need of the hour. And this responsibility is not just on the men, also on the women. They have to be aware, we have to be sensitive, have the right attitude, and take corrective actions wherever it is required. And one of the major reasons we have seen for such cases is the ignorance which surrounds. Both men also are not aware, with changing times, they feel there is a very thin line which they do not know, and they cross that and they land into difficulty. Women also should not misuse the rights given to them and should be at the same time, they have to be very conscious and aware that they are not misled into certain acts. So that is with this, I come to the end of my presentation. I hope I have been able to create an awareness. And only one small thing, I am sure most of you may have seen the movie Pink. However, if you have not, please see that movie because it throws light on a lot of aspects for us to ponder, and it will help us. So any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them if there is time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your excellent and knowledgeable words. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for spreading such an awareness to all the women and even a man. Now we go to the question and answer round. So because we have less of time, so I will just ask one question. The Miss Rita and
Sorry, I can't hear you, Purnatha.
will address your question through mail. We will answer through mail. So one question I would like to ask is, it is raised by Fareen Khan. Can sexual harassment in college by a classmate be considered as an offense?
It is an offense, but not under POSH, because the student is not not come under the definition of employee. However, if it is a university, then there is a University Grants Commission. If it is, otherwise they have their code of conduct. Under that, they can
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I again request all the participants that any other question, please mail us. We will revert to your question. Now I hand over. I request Bipindra sir to please give vote of thanks.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We have already told the audience what Law Society Alliance is and what Legal Cell is, so I will not repeat it again today. But I would like to propose a vote of thanks to Advocate Shilpa Bhatia. She made an excellent presentation, very clear thoughts. It clarified a whole lot of issues if people are really interested in knowing. I think the audience should also include some corporate people. Uh, it would have helped them really well because this, the law itself is addressed towards the corporate sector and the offices and shops and establishments that are there. But I think most of our participants today are students. I think they'll go on to defend a whole lot of, and probably even litigate on posh cases in their careers as an advocate when they pass out and go into the field. I think it's going to be of great use to them that way. I thank Advocate Bhatia for
Thank
your excellent exposition today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Even I have been enlightened by some of the points that you raised. Probably it's a refresher that has happened for advocates like me and Kumar Vaidyanathan on these matters. Thank you so much for your exposition, and we hope you be associated with Legal Cell and Law and Society Alliance in the days to come, so that we can create some awareness on legal aspects around the world. I think legal education is something that needs to be taught in schools, but unfortunately, we don't have such a system in the education system that we have today. So these kind of non-governmental efforts like us is what is going to help in that aspect. So thank you very much for this, and probably we'll invite you again for another session, probably including some corporate houses and other business establishments that will be in your exposition. Thank you very much. I now request Kumar Vaidyanathan, Advocate Kumar Vaidyanathan, to make an there to close the event as per his convenience. Thank you and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Today we had some corporate people also. There were some from the corporate side, like Geeta. Well, she's from corporate, and then Rita is also from the corporate side. So thank you, Shilpa. It was excellent. We had a great session. I give it back to Purnata for making comments. Purnata, back to you, please.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I would like to make an announcement that tomorrow webinar is on women relation and its curve socio culture, economic and legal portrait of marriage, divorce and interpersonal norms by Ms. Samiksha Madhukula. It's tomorrow, that is on 17 July 2020 from 2:20 IST to 3:10 PM IST. Thank you.
With this, we close the session.
Yeah, end of the session. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you, participants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.